The big room was filled with beings from many planets. Humans from Earth sat in one small section. They looked tiny compared to the other aliens around them. The room was inside a huge alien ship that floated above Earth. Bright lights from the ceiling made the metal walls shine. The air smelled strange, a mix of different worlds. Jack Miller sat in his blue uniform. He tried to look calm, but his fingers kept tapping on his leg. Jack was Earth's main speaker at this meeting. Next to him, Susan Wright wrote notes on her small computer. Her red hair was tied back, and she kept pushing her glasses up her nose. They were here with 10 other humans, all chosen to speak for Earth. This meeting was important. After 15 years of knowing about aliens, humans wanted to join the Galactic Council. The Council was like a club for space-traveling people. Being in this club would help Earth get new technology and protection, but the aliens standing at the front of the room did not seem to want humans to join. This alien was called Zixtral. He was very tall, about 7 feet, with skin that glowed different colors. Right now, his skin glowed bright blue, showing he felt very sure of himself. He had 4 eyes that blinked one after another. His long fingers moved through the air, making pictures appear. "And so," Zixtral said in his deep voice, "we must consider if humans are ready to join us. The facts suggest they are not." Jack felt his face get hot, but he kept smiling. A good speaker for Earth needed to stay calm. Zixtral made a new picture appear in the air. It showed a human body next to bodies of other aliens. "Look at the human form," he said. "So fragile, humans break easily. They cannot breathe many kinds of air. They can only see a tiny part of the light in the universe. They cannot hear most sounds." The alien touched another button, and the picture changed to show a human brain. "Even worse is the human mind. Humans must fall unconscious for many hours each day. They call this sleep. During this time they are helpless. What use is a council member who is helpless for 1/3 of each day?" Many of the aliens around the room made sounds of agreement. Some nodded their strange heads. Others moved tentacles or wings to show they agreed. "Also," Zixtral continued, "humans feel too much. Their old brain parts still control them. Fear, anger, love, these feelings rule humans. They cannot make good choices when feelings are so strong." Susan leaned close to Jack's ear. "He's been planning this talk for a long time," she whispered. "The Zilarians really don't want us in their club." Jack nodded slightly. He had hoped this meeting would be friendly. Instead, it felt like they were being scolded like children. Zixtral showed more pictures. One showed Earth's wars through history. Another showed humans fighting each other. "Look at this record of human behavior," he said. "Always fighting, always divided. The Galactic Council needs members who can work together for thousands of years. Humans fight wars over small differences. How can such beings help us keep peace?" In the galaxy, the Veln aliens moved their green tentacles in agreement. They came from a water world and could speak to each other with their minds. They thought humans were too separate from each other. The Morsithi clicked their hard mouth parts together. These bug-like aliens lived in big groups that thought as one. They believed humans were too alone in their own heads. Jack looked around. The room, all 12 kinds of aliens, seemed to agree with Zixtral. The humans were being judged, and the judgment was not good. "Humans are clever," Zixtral said, "but cleverness is not wisdom. They build things quickly but break things just as fast. Their planet shows this. Parts are polluted. Many animals are gone forever. Would you give a child a dangerous tool? That is what bringing humans into the council would be like." Susan wrote quickly on her computer. Her face stayed calm, but Jack could see she was pressing her pen too hard. She was angry too. The worst part was that some of what Zixtral said was true. Humans did have limits. They did make mistakes. But the alien was not talking about human strengths at all. The big alien put his 4 arms out wide. "I have spoken for almost 1 Earth hour. In this short time, I have shown why humans are not ready for the council. They are too young, too weak, and too divided. Perhaps in another 100 years we can talk again." Zixtral's skin changed to a soft purple color. "Now I will answer questions." Though I think the facts are very clear, the room was quiet. Number. Alien raised a limb or tentacle to speak. They all seemed to agree with everything Zixtril had said. Susan poked Jack's side with her elbow. Say something, she whispered. They're waiting for us to just accept this. Jack took a deep breath. His heart beat fast. What could he say against all those facts? Humans were younger than these aliens. Humans did have physical limits. Humans did fight wars, but something felt wrong about the whole talk. Zixtril had only told one side of the story. Jack stood up slowly. All eyes in the room turned to him. Some aliens had many eyes. Some had no eyes but could sense movement in other ways. All were now focused on the human who dared to speak. Ambassador Miller, Zixtril said, his voice sounding surprised. You wish to say something? Jack nodded. I have a question, if I may. The alien's skin flickered with blue and yellow spots, showing confusion. Of course. That is why we are here. To help humans understand their place. Jack stood straight and looked directly at the tall alien. He knew his next words were very important for Earth's future. He had to be smart. He had to be careful, but he also had to be honest. Thank you, Ambassador Zixtril, Jack said in a clear voice that carried through the big room. My question is simple. What is your species? Greatest fear? The room went completely silent. Even the soft sounds of alien breathing seemed to stop. Zixtril's skin froze in one color, then quickly changed through many colors. The other aliens looked just as surprised. The Veln pulled in their tentacles. The Morsithi stopped clicking. Zixtril stood very still for several seconds. When he spoke again, his voice was different. I do not understand why you ask this, Ambassador Miller. Jack kept his voice calm. You've talked a lot about human weaknesses. I'm curious about Zilarian weaknesses. What are you afraid of? What dangers? Shaped how your people grew and changed? The alien's skin was now flashing with patterns that Jack had never seen before. The other aliens in the room shifted in their seats. This question is not proper, Zixtril said stiffly. We are talking about real physical and mental limits. Not ... personal worries. Isn't fear a real physical and mental response? Jack asked. Humans know our fears well. We study them, we write stories about them. We face them every day. I'm just wondering if Solarians, with their better bodies and minds, feel fear too. The alien stared at Jack with all four eyes. For the first time since the meeting began, Zixtril seemed to have nothing to say. The big room stayed very quiet. Jack stood alone, waiting for an answer. His question about fear had changed something in the room. The air felt different now. All the aliens were looking back and forth between Jack and Zixtril's. Glowing skin kept changing colors. First blue, then yellow, then a mix of both. His four eyes blinked quickly. He seemed unsure what to say next. The question is not important, Zixtril finally said. We should talk about facts, not feelings. Jack stayed calm. Fear is a fact. All living things feel fear. It helps them stay alive. I just wondered what Zilarians fear. Susan watched Jack with wide eyes. She had not expected him to be so bold. The other humans in their group looked nervous. No one had ever questioned the aliens like this before. Then something surprising happened. One of the bug-like aliens stood up. This was TKK, the speaker for the Morsithi. Her hard outer shell was green and brown. Her many legs clicked on the floor as she moved. I find the humans' question good, she said in her clicking voice. The Morsithi fear being alone. We fear the death of our hive mind. If our shared thoughts broke, we would be lost. That is why we made ways to keep our minds connected across space. A soft sound went through the room. Other aliens started to look at each other. Then the Veln speaker raised 3 of his green tentacles. The Veln fear being cut off from others too, he said. We speak mind to mind. To be alone in your head like humans are would be a kind of death to us. More aliens began to speak up. The Galumfians fear space that bends wrong, said a round, floating alien. Our home has strange gravity. We fear places where the rules of space are different. The Drell fear having no resources, said a tall, thin alien with gray skin. Our homeworld is harsh. We fear running out of what we need to live. One by one, aliens around the room shared their fears. Some feared natural things like storms or heat. Some feared being forgotten or losing their history. Some feared change, while others feared staying the same too long. Only Zixterl stayed quiet. His skin had settled into a slow, steady pulse of dark blue. He watched as the other aliens spoke openly about their fears. Susan leaned close to Jack. The Zilarians still haven't answered, she whispered. Jack nodded slightly. He knew pushing too hard might hurt Earth's chances. But something important was happening in the room. The meeting had changed from a lecture to a real talk between equals. Maybe, Jack said to the whole room, what makes a species ready for? The council isn't having a perfect body or mind. Maybe it's knowing what you're not good at and working with others to solve problems. The Velm speaker moved his tentacles in a happy way. The human speaks well. When we admit what we fear, we can help each other be stronger. All the aliens turned to look at Zixterl. He had not moved from his spot at the front of the room. His 4 eyes looked at the floor. Finally, he raised his head. The Zilarians, he said in a quiet voice, fear not being important anymore. The room went silent again. This time, the silence felt different. Everyone was waiting to hear more. We were among the first to travel in space in this part of the galaxy, Zixterl continued. We helped build the Galactic Council. Our ways of thinking, our rules, our technology, these became the foundation for how different species work together. His skin showed complex patterns of light that meant something important in Zilarian culture. But each new species brings change. New ideas, new answers to old problems, new ... improvements. Zixterl blinked his 4 eyes one after another. Humans, especially, change very quickly. Your species does in decades what took others hundreds of years. Jack was surprised. You see our ability to adapt as a bad thing? Not bad, Zixterl sighed, unavoidable. In just 15 years since we met humans, you have already made better versions of 17 important technologies we shared with you. Your improvements to brain interfaces alone have pushed galactic medical science forward by 30 years. Susan leaned forward. But that helps everyone. All species benefit when we share ideas. True, Zixterl agreed. But it also means that older species must change their ways very quickly. The Zilarian way, careful, slow, tested over thousands of years, may become ... not needed. The Drell speaker, a thin gray alien named HFY, spoke up. Is this why the council has been slow? To let humans join? Fear of change? Zixterl's skin shifted to a more formal pattern. We prefer to call it being careful, responsible leadership. Keeping systems that work? Jack stood up again. Ambassador Zixterl, no disrespect, but maybe this is exactly why humans should join the council. We understand fast change. We've lived through it many times. Our whole way of life has changed completely several times just in the memory of people still alive. We've made terrible mistakes and learned important lessons. Maybe what humans bring isn't just new ideas, but experience with handling the problems that come with fast change. The room was quiet as everyone thought about Jack's words. Zixterl looked at Jack with all 4 of his eyes. You suggest that your weakness, your short lives, and constant change might actually be useful to the council? Yes, Jack said simply. In our short lives, we see many changes. We learn to adapt. We learn to balance the good of new things with the wisdom of old ways. We make mistakes faster, but we also learn faster. Susan stood up beside Jack. Humans know we're not perfect. We don't live as long as Zilarians. We can't share thoughts like the Velm. We can't see all the colors that Morsithi see, but we know how to work with our limits. We know how to ask for help. And we know how to offer help where we're strong. The other aliens in the room looked at each other. Some made sounds or movements that showed they were thinking about these ideas. Zixterl was quiet for a long time. His skin shifted through slow patterns of blue and green. Finally, he spoke. Perhaps, he said, we should reconsider. The council was formed so different species could share their strengths and help with each other's weaknesses. No species is perfect, not even Zilarians. Jack felt hope growing inside him. His simple question about fear had opened a door that had been closed before. I suggest, Zixtril said, that we continue this discussion, but not as a lecture. As a conversation between potential equals. Around the room, aliens showed their agreement in different ways. The Veln moved their tentacles. The Morsithi clicked their mouth parts. The floating Galumfians pulsed with light. Susan smiled at Jack. They both knew something important had just happened. Humans hadn't tried to prove they were perfect. They had admitted they had limits, just like every other species. And somehow, that honesty had earned them more respect than any show of strength could have. The meeting would continue, but everything had changed. A simple question about fear had turned a lecture into a conversation. And in that conversation, humans had found their voice in the Galactic Council. The meeting changed after that. The aliens and humans took a short break. Everyone needed time to think about what had happened. Jack and Susan walked to a small side room where the human team could talk alone. That was amazing, Susan said as the door closed behind them. You changed everything with one question? Jack took a deep breath. His hands were shaking a little. I wasn't sure it would work. I just knew we had to change how they were seeing us. The other humans in their group came over to talk. Frank, a tall man with gray hair, patted Jack on the back. Good job, Jack. You stood up for Earth. What do you think will happen next? Asked Maria, a woman with short black hair who worked as a scientist. Jack shook his head. I don't know. But at least they're really talking to us now, not just telling us why we're not good enough. Susan looked at her computer. We have 10 minutes before we go back in. We should think about what to say next. The humans talked quickly, making a plan. When the break was over, they went back to the big room. The aliens were already there. The room felt different now. The aliens were talking to each other across groups, not just staying with their own kind. Zixtril stood at the front of the room. His skin was a calm blue color now. Let us continue our meeting, he said. But as Ambassador Miller suggested, let us speak as equals sharing knowledge, not as teachers and students. Jack nodded his thanks. This was much better. I propose, Zixtril said, that we talk about how different species solve problems. Each species sees the world in its own way. Each has its own strengths. The alien looked at Jack. Would you be willing to tell us how humans approach problems, Ambassador Miller? Jack stood up. He had not expected to be asked to speak first. He thought for a moment. Humans solve problems in many ways, he said. But one thing we do well is try new ideas. We call it thinking outside the box. We look for answers in unexpected places. Can you give an example? Asked the Morsithi speaker, her bug-like face turned toward Jack. Yes, Jack said. Long ago, humans traveled on water in boats with sails that caught the wind, but we could only go where the wind blew. Then we invented steam engines that let boats go anywhere, even against the wind. That was thinking outside the box. The aliens made sounds of understanding. The Veln speaker moved his tentacles. How do humans work together to solve problems? You do not share minds like we do. Susan stood up next to Jack. We talk, we argue, we share ideas. Sometimes we disagree strongly. But through that process, we test ideas and make them better. The Drell speaker, Heshkeho, tilted his gray head. This sounds slow and inefficient. It can be, Susan admitted. But it also means we consider many different ideas. We don't miss solutions because we all think the same way, Jack nodded. Humans are very different from each other. We come from different places, believe different things, have different skills. This can make it hard to agree. But it also means we bring many ways of thinking to each problem. Zixtril's skin showed patterns of interest. This diversity of thought, you see it as a strength? Yes, Jack said. For example, our team here includes people who study science, politics, history, and art. We all see problems differently. Together, we find better answers than any of us could alone. The Galumfian speaker, a round floating alien, moved closer. But what about your physical limitations? How do you overcome those? Susan smiled. We build tools. Humans can't fly, so we built airplanes. We can't see in the dark, so we made night vision goggles. We can't live in space, so we made spacesuits. And ships. Humans are good at making tools, Jack added. When we can't do something with our bodies, we find a way to do it with technology. The aliens seemed interested now. They asked more questions. How did humans learn? How did they pass knowledge to their children? How did they make decisions in large groups? Jack and Susan answered as best they could. The other humans in their group joined in too. They talked about Earth's different forms of government, about schools and universities, about how humans work together during crisis. After a while, Zixtril raised his hand. I see now that I was wrong to focus only on human limitations. Your ways of solving problems are interesting, different from ours, but valuable. The room was quiet. No one had expected the Zilarian to admit he was wrong. May I ask, Jack said carefully, how Zilarians solve problems? Zixtril's skin glowed with soft patterns. We analyze, we consider. We test small changes over long periods. We are cautious. That sounds wise, Jack said. Humans could learn from that approach. We sometimes rush into new ideas without thinking about all the results. Zixtril seemed pleased. Perhaps this is why the Council exists, so different species can learn from each other's strengths. The meeting continued for many more hours. Each species shared how they solved problems, how they made decisions, how they dealt with conflict. The humans listened and learned. The aliens listened and learned too. Near the end of the long day, Zixtril called for quiet. I wish to make a suggestion, he said. I suggest we form a small working group with members from all species here. This group will study how humans might join the Council. Not in 100 years, but perhaps sooner. Jack felt his heart beat faster. This was a big change from the morning when Zixtril had said humans were not ready. I would be honored to serve on such a group, Jack said. As would I, added TKKKKKK. And I, said the Veln speaker, his tentacles moving in a happy pattern, one by one. Speakers from each alien species offered to join the working group. Even Hishko, the Drell who had seemed most doubtful about humans, agreed to take part. When the meeting ended, Jack and Susan walked out together. They were tired but happy. I can't believe how much things changed, Susan said. This morning they were telling us all the reasons we couldn't join the Council. Now they're making plans for how we can join, Jack nodded. Old because we were honest about our weaknesses and strengths. We didn't try to pretend we were perfect. We just showed we were willing to learn and share. As they walked down the long hallway of the alien ship, they passed many different kinds of aliens. Some nodded to them or made other gestures of greeting. The humans nodded back. For the first time since coming to the big alien ship, Jack felt like they belonged. Not because humans were the strongest or smartest or longest-lived species, but because they had something valuable to share with the galaxy, their unique way of seeing the world and solving problems. Susan looked out a window at Earth, glowing blue in the darkness. Do you think they'll really let us join the Council? Soon? Jack smiled. I don't know. But at least now they're really seeing us, all of us, good and bad, and that's a start. The next 3 days were very busy for Jack and Susan. The working group met for many hours each day. They talked about what it would mean for humans to join the Galactic Council. There were many details to work out. Jack sat at a round table with aliens from all 12 species. The room was smaller than the big meeting room. It felt more friendly. Zixtril sat across from Jack. His skin was now a calm mix of blue and green. He seemed different from the first day, less sure that his way was the only right way. Let us discuss what humans would bring to the Council, Zixtril said on the morning of the second day. Each species contributes something valuable. TKKTKCHR, the Morsithi speaker, clicked her mouth parts. The Morsithi bring our hive mind. We can think about many problems at once. The Veln speaker moved his tentacles. The Veln bring our mental connection. We help species understand each other's feelings. Each alien spoke about what their species offered. The Drell were good at finding and saving resources. The Galumfians understood space and time in special ways. The Jaxari, a species that looked like tall birds, were great builders who made amazing structures. Then all eyes turned to Jack. What would humans bring? Asked Heshko, the Drell speaker. Jack thought carefully. Humans adapt quickly. We find new ways to solve problems. We look at old things and see new uses for them. Susan added, we also bring our art, our stories, our music. These help us understand what it means to be alive, to feel, to connect with others. Zixtral's skin showed surprise. You think these things matter to the Council? Yes, Jack said. The Council isn't just about technology or resources. It's about different kinds of life, finding ways to understand each other. Art and stories help with that. The aliens looked at each other. This was a new idea for some of them. The human makes a good point, said the Jaxari speaker, his feathers moving gently. My people value beauty in our buildings. It is not just about function, but about feeling. The Veln understand this, said their speaker. Our mind songs are both useful and beautiful. The group talked more about art and culture. Many species had things like music or stories or art, though they were different from human versions. Some made patterns of light. Others created smells or tastes. Some built things while others made sounds. Jack was surprised. He had thought the aliens only cared about practical things like technology or resources. But they had their own kinds of art. They too tried to understand what it meant to be alive. During a break, Jack walked with Zixtral to look out a window at Earth below. Your world is beautiful, Zixtral said. The blues and whites, the swirls of cloud, Jack nodded. We think so too, though we haven't always treated it well. All young species make this mistake, Zixtral said. His voice was gentler now. The Zilarians nearly destroyed our world before we learned better. Jack looked at the tall alien with surprise. Really? I thought Zilarians always made perfect choices. Zixtral's skin showed a pattern that Jack now knew meant something like laughing. No species is perfect, Ambassador Miller. We have made many mistakes in our long history. We have learned from them, sometimes the hard way. That's something we have in common then, Jack said. Learning from mistakes, yes, Zixtral agreed. Perhaps we are not so different after all. When the break was over, the group talked about rules. If humans joined the Council, they would need to follow certain rules. Some were simple, like not attacking other species. Others were more complex, like how to share new technology or how to solve arguments between planets. These rules seem fair, Jack said after hearing them all. Humans already believe in many of these ideas. We call some of them human rights, the idea that all people deserve to be treated with respect. An interesting concept, Heshko said. The Council has similar ideas, though we apply them to all thinking beings, not just one species. Humans are learning to think that way too, Susan said. We're still working on treating each other right, but we're getting better at seeing how we connect to all life. The group worked late into the night. They wrote down agreements and plans. They made lists of things humans would need to do before joining the Council and things the Council would offer in return. It was hard work, but good work. On the morning of the third day, Zixtral called for quiet. We have done good work together. He said, I believe we are ready to present our findings to the full gathering. Jack felt nervous and excited. Do you think they will agree to let humans join the Council? Not immediately, Zixtral said honestly. There are still steps to take, preparations to make. But soon, much sooner than I would have thought possible 3 days ago. The working group went back to the big meeting room. All the other aliens were waiting. Jack saw the other humans from Earth sitting together, looking nervous. He gave them a small smile to show things were going well. Zixtral stood at the front of the room. His skin glowed with formal patterns of blue and gold. Honored representatives, he said. Our working group has studied the question of human membership in the Galactic Council. We have talked, learned, and worked together. Now we bring you our thoughts. The room was very quiet as Zixtrol explained what the group had decided. Humans would not join the council right away. First, they would be associate members for 10 Earth years. During this time, they would learn more about galactic rules and customs. They would share their technology and culture. They would work with other species on projects to help all worlds. After 10 years, Zixtrol said, if all goes well, humans will become full members of the council with all rights and duties. When he finished speaking, the room was quiet for a moment. Then the Veln speaker raised his tentacles. I support this plan, he said. The humans have shown they are ready to learn and share. The Morsithi agree, clicked TKK. Humans think differently from us, but this brings new ideas. One by one, speakers from all the alien species gave their thoughts. Most agreed with the plan. A few had questions or concerns, but no one completely disagreed. Finally, an old Zilarian near the back of the room stood up. This was Velcorax, one of the oldest members of the council. His skin was pale and his patterns moved slowly with age. I have lived many human lifetimes, he said in a slow voice. I have seen many species join the council. Some succeeded. Some failed. The key is not technology or strength or even wisdom. The key is the ability to change and grow while still remembering who you are. The old alien looked at Jack. I believe humans have this ability. They change quickly, but they keep their core values. They learn from others, but they remain themselves. I support this plan. Jack felt a wave of relief and pride. The oldest and most respected Zilarian had spoken for humans. That would help a lot. Zixtrol looked around the room. Then it is decided, he said. We will prepare the formal agreements. In 1 Earth month, humans will become associate members of the Galactic Council. The humans in the room looked at each other with joy and amazement. They had done it. Earth would join the galactic community of worlds. As the meeting ended, aliens came to talk to the humans. Some asked questions. Others offered congratulations. A few even suggested working together on projects right away. Susan stood next to Jack, watching it all. Can you believe this? She asked. 3 days ago they were listing all our weaknesses. Now they want to work with us. Jack smiled. All because we were honest about who we are, both our strengths and our weaknesses. We didn't try to be perfect. We just showed we were willing to learn and grow. And it all started with one question about fear, Susan said. Sometimes the right question is more powerful than all the answers in the world. 1 month later, Jack stood on the observation deck of the Zilarian ship. The huge window showed Earth below, a blue and white ball against the blackness of space. Next to him stood Susan, Frank, Maria, and the other humans from their team. They all wore new blue uniforms with a special patch that showed Earth as part of the Galactic Council. It's really happening today, Susan said, her voice soft with wonder. Jack nodded. Hard to believe. 1 month ago, we were just hoping they would. Talk to us. Now we're joining the council. The door to the observation deck opened. Zixtrol walked in, his skin glowing with formal patterns of blue and gold. The ceremony will begin soon, he said. Are you ready, Ambassador Miller? Jack took a deep breath. Yes, a little nervous, but ready. Zixtrol's skin showed a pattern. That meant something like a smile. That is understandable. This is a big day for your species. The day you officially join the wider community of worlds. The Zilarian looked out at Earth. It is beautiful, your planet. Each world has its own beauty, but Earth has a special quality. The mix of blue water, white clouds, green and brown land, and the way it changes as it turns. We've always thought it was beautiful, Jack said. Though, from down there we can't see the whole thing at once like this. That is often true, Zixtrol said. Sometimes we need to step back to see the whole picture. That is something I have learned from our talks. Susan checked the time on her small computer. We should go soon. The ceremony starts in 20 minutes. They left the observation deck and walked through the long halls of the alien ship. Other aliens joined them as they walked. The Morsithi speaker, TKK, clicked a greeting. The Veln speaker moved his tentacles in a friendly way. Even Hishko, the Drell who had been doubtful about humans, nodded his gray head as he fell into step beside them. "A good day," he said in his rough voice. "The council grows stronger with each new perspective." They reached the grand hall where the ceremony would take place. It was even bigger than the meeting room. Thousands of aliens from all 12 species filled the space. At the front was a raised platform with a large round table. 12 chairs sat around it, one for each species. "The human chair is there," Zixtril said, pointing to an empty space at the table. "After today, there will be 13 chairs." Jack felt his heart beat faster. That chair represented Earth's place in the galaxy. It meant humans were no longer alone in the universe. They were part of something bigger. The ceremony began with music. Each species played their own kind of music, one after another. Some used instruments that made sounds. Others created patterns of light or smell or even gentle touches of electricity that could be felt in the air. When it was Earth's turn, Susan stepped forward with a small group of humans. They sang an old song about peace and friendship that had been translated into all the alien languages. The clear human voices filled the big room. Many aliens made signs of approval or enjoyment. After the music, the formal part began. Velcorax, the old Zilarian, stood at the center of the platform. His skin glowed with ancient patterns that told the history of the council. "Today we welcome a new species to our community," he said in his slow, deep voice. "Humans join us as associate members, beginning their journey toward full membership." He spoke about the history of the council, how it had started with just 3 species thousands of years ago. He talked about how each new species had brought new ideas and strengths. He explained the rules and responsibilities that all members shared. Then he called Jack forward. Jack walked up the steps to the platform, trying to look calm. He knew billions of people on Earth were watching this moment through video links. He was representing all of humanity. "Ambassador Jack Miller," Velcorax said, "do you accept these responsibilities on behalf of Earth and all humans?" Jack's voice was clear and strong. "I do. Earth is honored to join the Galactic Council. We come ready to learn, to share, and to work together for the good of all worlds." Velcorax handed Jack a small glowing orb. "This is the symbol of membership. Place it in the human chair." Jack walked to the empty space at the big round table. He placed the glowing orb in a small hollow in the table. The orb sank in and became part of the table. A new chair rose from the floor, shaped to fit a human body. "It is done," Velcorax said. "Earth is now an associate member of the Galactic Council." The room filled with sounds of approval from all the different aliens. Some clapped like humans. Others made their own kinds of sounds or movements to show they were happy. After the ceremony, there was a celebration. Food and drinks from all 13 worlds were served. Music played. Aliens and humans talked and learned about each other. Jack found himself standing with Zixtril near the end of the party. The Zilarian's skin was a relaxed blue color now. "I must thank you, Ambassador Miller," Zixtril said. "Thank me? For what?" "For asking that question about fear," Zixtril said. "It changed everything. It made me see that I was wrong to focus only on human weaknesses," Jack smiled. "I just wanted to show that all species have strengths and weaknesses. No one is perfect." "A wise understanding," Zixtril said. "The Council works because each species brings different strengths. Together, we are stronger than anyone alone." Susan joined them, carrying a drink in a strange-looking cup. "The Drell make amazing fruit drinks," she said. "I never thought alien food would taste good to humans, but this is wonderful." "There will be many such discoveries in the years ahead," Zixtril said. "New foods, new music, new ideas. This is the joy of council membership." They looked out a window at the stars. Jack thought about how big the universe was and how many different kinds of life might be out there. Earth was now connected to all of it. What happens next? "Susan asked." "The work begins," Zixtril said. "There are trade agreements to make, cultural exchanges to plan, technology to share. The Council has many ongoing projects that humans can join. And in 10 years, if all goes well, full membership," Jack said. Yes, Zixtral agreed, though I suspect it may happen sooner. Humans learn quickly. As the party ended, Jack took one last look around the room. Aliens and humans were talking together in small groups. Some were making plans to work together. Others were just getting to know each other. It had all started with one question about fear. That question had changed. A lecture into a conversation. It had shown that honest talk about weaknesses could build stronger connections than any show of strength. Jack smiled as he walked with his team back to their ship. Earth was not alone anymore. Humans were part of a bigger community. They had much to learn from the older species, but they also had much to share, and it had all started with a question.